Hello, I'm Doug and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And on today's 10 tastes for whiskey drinkers, we're looking at smoky things. Foods that have been smoked, burnt, charred, but mostly smoked. And we're going to go through cheeses and fish and seafood and tea and mescals and a couple other things I couldn't even put in a category. So, like this thing, almonds. Now, these weren't like handcrafted smoked almonds in a smokehouse. They just added some smoke flavoring to the stuff on the outside here. But they were smoky and good. So why would smoke be a tasting note for whiskeys? Well, let me give you a couple of reasons. And there's probably more that I'm not thinking of. But first of all, Scotch whiskey is very often made from malted barley that has been processed. The very last stage of the malting process of the barley is often smoking with peat smoke, which imparts a very smoky flavor. And this flavor varies all over Scotland. Islay has one kind of peat, the Highlands have a different kind of peat, several different kinds of peat. The variation in the smoky peat styles all over Scotland is a very interesting thing that takes years to sort out and taste your way through. More smoky almonds. And then the other major use is to understand American bourbons and other American whiskeys that are usually matured and aged in charred new oak barrels. So barrels can be toasted, they can be roasted, they can be charred. They can have all sorts of treatments to them to make the wood give up some of the sugars or caramelize some of the wood sugars. But charring the oak to a very great degree is a very common step in American bourbon barrel preparation. And this will generate a lot of char, smoke, and similar notes in the American whiskeys. So those are the two basic reasons for exploring smoke. So I'm going to give up the almonds here. Smokehouse from Blue Diamond. Yeah, that's good. But first I'm going to focus on cheese. So let me clear my palate from all that salt. So I can move on to salty cheese. So I have here some smoked Gouda, the brown rind, and some smoked provolone with the brown rind, and some smoked cheddar. And I've tasted all these, and this is the most intense, so I'll end up there. I'll just go around the circle. So before I start tasting, let me remind you to give this video a thumbs up, leave a question, leave some comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get notified when the new videos come out, click the bell, and you will hear about everything as it's posted. So I'm gonna take a little bite of this smoked Gouda. Doesn't smell very smoky. There's definitely a smokiness to it. This is probably the lightest smoke of the three cheeses here. It's light on the inside, it's light on the outside where the rind is. So it's not intense, but it's just a flavor note. And it's hard, can't really tell if it's what kind of smoke it is. It doesn't remind me of hickory like you might get with the barbecues. It's clearly not mesquite or other things. I know it's just a smoky note that's hard to identify fully. I don't know why, but the cracker, the flatbread, helps accentuate the smoke. And there's certainly a texture contrast as well. So I taste that smoke better with the cracker. So that's pretty good. An American supermarket of any size is going to have a pretty decent cheese department. And some of the cheeses there, if you look around, will be smoked things. Smoked mozzarella is very common, smoked cheddar, Gouda, provolone, are all all pretty common things. So you may have to hunt a little, but look for brown rinds. Oh, this one's much smokier. And it's kind of it's striking me as a hickory type of smoke, like barbecue. Yeah, much stronger, more intense. Smoky, dark, deep, husky type flavor notes. It really stands out on the cracker. That's definitely a hickory-like smoke. Okay, a little palate cleansing. Now I know from my previous tasting that this cheddar has very intense smoke. And the package says beechwood smoked. So it's similar to hickory, but it's quite different than the provolone was. Strong, the most intense of these three cheeses. I'm not getting a lot of cheddar notes. Not getting the saltiness or the cheddary type stuff I usually get. So the smoke is maybe overwhelming some of the cheese flavors. Wow, very intense smoke, especially at the rind end. The rind just has stronger char and smokiness type notes to it. So that's good. It almost goes beyond complementing the cheese. And it really kind of takes over. So, smoked cheeses are a good thing. Lets you kind of pick apart cheese flavors that you know and some smoke flavors maybe you don't know as well. And you get to try different types of smoke and try to pick out differences. So that's useful for tasting notes and for learning about smoke flavors. Next I'm going to do some smoked fish and seafood. So I'm very familiar with smoked salmon, or lox, Nova salmon. So this is a smoked, very thinly sliced salmon that really ends up looking like it's raw still. And the texture when you eat it kind of feels like it's raw still. So it is only smoked, it is not cooked. So some people may have a texture issue with it because it does not have a cooked feel once it's in your mouth. But there's definitely a good deep smokiness to it. There's a slight fishiness to it that salmon usually has, but certainly is not nearly as strong as some other fishes have. Salmon's pretty mild. But okay, I wouldn't call it a deep smoke or a rich smoke. It's just floating there on top of the surface, and it's a good complement to the oiliness and nice rich flavor of the salmon. I'll put a little bit on a cracker. It's good by itself, and salmon's a very oily fish. And it gets everything all oily, so be careful when you touch it. Don't clean your glasses right after you pick up salmon. Very interesting. It's very bland. Flatbread is made all the cheeses more intense, and it made the smokiness of the salmon more intense. It didn't seem very intense on its own, but the salmon notes popped a little more and the smoke popped a little more. So that is quite interesting. So I like smoked salmon, and I put lox on bagels and cream cheese quite a bit. Plain bagels, everything bagels. I usually don't do fruit things or sweet things or dessert type things, but plain everything bagels get cream cheese and salmon lots in my diet. So that is a good smoke note and very useful for understanding some smoke in whiskeys, I would say. And there's a saltiness in the salmon also, which leans a little towards Islay type Scotch whiskies because they're smoky and salty both, and this is helps you pick all those things out. So as I said, I'm very familiar with lox, with Nova salmon, but I'm going to try a couple things here that I'm not familiar with. So here are some lightly smoked sardines in organic extra virgin olive oil. So I don't even know if these things are going to explode or pop open or get me wet with spray. And then I have some smoked oysters here. So this is an unboxing and uncorking and a surprise, a blind tasting to me. So this is Bella brand lightly smoked sardines. And I'm going to open it up, taste them, put them on a cracker, and see how smoky they are. I am not a sardine person. I don't eat these normally. Ooh, it's fish with skin on it. Ooh. Uh-oh. This could fling olive oil for yards if I don't do the tension of the lid right. Okay, there we go. Excuse me. Okay, I want to find a small piece. Uh-oh. There ain't going to be a small piece. I'm going to make it small. Okay, because it's all oily, I'm not going to eat it plain. I'm just going to grab some with a little fork and put little bits of the flesh onto a cracker here. And I'll take care of the rest of it later with dinner or something. So I can't say I get a smokiness on this. So the cooked flesh from being canned tastes like, it's a lot like tuna. The texture is like tuna in a can. And there's a slight smokiness to it. I don't smell it, but I can certainly taste it. And it's mild, it's light. I'm not sure how much it tells you about whiskey, but it's one of those combinations, salty and smoky both flavors. So this could get you some notes for Islay. Okay, I can eat that. I can finish that off some other time. So I'll get that oil all over my smoked salmon there. Okay, next adventure are Reese Petite Smoked Oysters. So I think I remember 30 or 40 years ago having some smoked oysters at a friend's house. It was a couple they liked it. It was a delicacy for them. And I had a couple and said, well, thank you, that's very interesting. And didn't have any more. So I am seeing that these are very petite and small. And I'm smelling an oyster smell. Just like canned clams or canned oysters. Oysters are fairly common here in Louisiana. I'm going to let some oil drain off and then just give one a taste and see how smoky they are. Very smoky. It's a kind of smoke or wood or something I'm not very familiar with. So I'll have this one on a cracker. Very interesting, good. I don't like the texture. It's a very firm and dead. I'm used to oysters with a little bit of different texture in gumbo or fried or the various ways they come around here. Charbroiled, sitting on a shell. So I'm not a big fan of the texture here, but the smokiness is fairly intense. A different kind of smoke than the sardines or the salmon. So it's a different level of smoke and could be useful for a note for somebody, and salty of course. So I don't think I need to have more, but that was set number 2. Now we'll move on. So the third thing we're going to look at in smoky tastes for whiskey drinkers is smoky teas. The classic smoky tea is Lapsang Souchong, so I have Twining's version here, which I can get in any grocery store around here in the US, here in Louisiana. Also have an organic Lapsang Souchong from Berman Coffee Traders. I don't think I ordered this. I think my daughter may have given it to me because she wouldn't drink this kind. And then from a local tea room, we have Russian Country, which is like Russian Caravan, which is made with Lapsang Souchong. So we're going to try all three of these and see how smoky they are. So these were just brewed, about 3 minutes long. This one's tea bags, the other two are loose teas. I could show you, but you wouldn't be able to see it. So you can smell a single cup of this brewing across the room. It's got a deep, dark, rich, smoky aroma. So this is a deep, rich, dark, smoky taste. Kind of like if water ran off of a campfire. You get up the next morning. Yep, next morning this is the water that ran off the campfire. So it's fairly intense smoke flavor and aroma. You can't miss it, it's the main thing. And then you know it's tea notes. So there's nothing subtle about it. Now moving on to the Berman loose tea. If anything, it's deeper and darker. And the brewing method can affect it. This is a tea bag with a certain amount of very finely chopped tea in there. This is a much coarser tea with lots of little sticks and rolled up leaves. Now I just guessed the amount for this cup. And they both got the same water for the same time. Whoa, yeah. I would say deeper, darker, richer, smokier. It's a little hard to tell when it's so hot, but it is smoky, smoky, smoky. It's not subtle. It's not just one of the notes. It's the first, second, and third notes. And then you notice a little bit of the tea character, a little bit of bitterness. Underneath it all, so it is strong. So I only know of Lapsang Souchong as a primary smoky tea, but I'm sure if you go to tea specialty sites and sources, you can look through all their goods and pick up quite a few other things. And I know Russian Caravan tea contains Lapsang Souchong. So this one is called Russian Country, but it's the same idea. It is partly Lapsang Souchong. I can tell from the smell. It's the same kind of thing, but it might only be half or so. So the other tea flavors are more prominent than in here. So it's a blend, and Lapsang Souchong is one of them, and it is now just a note. So I like it. I like the subtlety of it. But smoky tea is a surprising source for some really intense smoky flavors. So if you like your Isla peated Scotch whiskey, you might like this kind of tea. So the fourth item I want to hit in this Smoky Things episode of 10 Tastes for Whiskey Drinkers is Mescal, which is made from the agave plant, kind of like tequila. But they have an extra step where they roasted the agave fruit, bulb, vegetable thing, head. I don't know, it's like a cabbage head, basically. Chop off all the leaves and you got this little gob of stuff that has some sweets, sugars in it, and it can ferment. And the roasting step makes mezcal distinctive from tequila. So it's got the same basic flavor plus the roasting smoke. So this one is Montelobos, 43.2% Espadín from Oaxaca, Mexico. I'm going to taste two of them here on the outsides. This one is unaged. But every little village in this region seems to have their own little distillery. So there's 1,000 different craft distilleries for mezcal in Oaxaca and neighboring areas. On those, there's definite smoky note. There's a little alcohol. There's a little of that tequila smell. And there's some smokiness. On the palate, it is much more intense than it is on the nose. It is a careful, quiet, restrained smoke compared to the smoky teas. This is kind of restricted and constrained. I really interpret it more as a roasting aroma, a roasting smell, more than a smokiness. But lots of people taste mezcal and go, oh no, I don't want that. It's too smoky. I'm finding this one's very restrained, constrained. It's not popping out all over the place. It's mild and just one of the notes. And the more you get used to it, the more you can picture it as being just integrated in with all the other aromas and flavors. But it is really one of the notes here. There's a good vegetal note, something green, some broken leaf, something vegetal, herbal, interesting, peppery, like green pepper, black pepper, all sorts of things in the finish here. And smoke on the arrival, smoke on the mid palate, smoke on the finish. So it's smoky. And this one is an añejo, so it's been aged in oak for a year, I believe it says. This one's also 43% ABV. And aged mezcals generally have a little more tamed down smoke note. The aging tends to lighten up the smoke and control it and moderate it. Okay, I'm getting some vanilla. Tequila smells vanilla. Buttery kind of character, buttery note. And the smokiness. Oh wow. Good strong vegetal note. The smoke is mild. So that is one of the cooler things about mezcals, is that every village, every expression, every process, it has a little difference and it gives you a different kind of smoke, a different level of smoke. The intensities vary. All the vegetal notes that are intertwined with the smoke vary quite a bit. And then the aging of it can moderate the smoke quite a bit and throw in all those wood sugars, wood bitters, wood vanilla. So it's a very interesting mix of flavors that would be of great interest to whiskey drinkers, because vanilla, oak, all those things are in whiskey all the time as well. And smoke. And sorting those out and understanding where they come from is one of the steps in becoming a better whiskey taster. So, smoky mezcals. Okay, so I think that'll do it for this last episode of 10 Tastes for Whiskey Drinkers, Smoky Things, which will teach us a little bit about some of the things we find in whiskey, some of the flavors and aromas, and all the other episodes too. So check them all out, and hope you learn a little bit from them. So I think the next thing is going on to, if I continue my pattern, will be another one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. And then on to brie-like cheeses, the second tasting group of cheeses. So that's what I'm planning in the future. So that's all for this episode. So cheers.
I love whiskey drinking women. They understand the things I do. They never beg me to stop drinking, 'cause they like drinking whiskey too. Sophisticated ladies.